Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, B'Shem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. And I'm going to do a little lesson on gathering together, O nation not desired. And I'm going to start with Sirach 27, verse 3. And it reads, unless a man holds himself diligently in the fear of the Lord, his house shall soon be overthrown. So the prophet Sirach is saying we have to be diligent and we have to be doing what God is saying in this Bible, because if we don't, our houses are going to be overthrown. We are under attack. We are being oppressed in this society. And so we have to come back to the laws, the statutes, and commandments. And one of his commandments is gathering together. And from there, I'm going to go to Psalms. I'm going to go to the book of Psalms 111. Here, bear with me. Psalms 111 and verse 10. And it reads, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. So David, right here, David is saying the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. He said a good understanding have all they that do God's commandments. So if you're not doing God's commandments, you don't fear him, and you don't have a good understanding. You're not understanding the Bible, is what he's saying. And from there, I'm going to go to Zephaniah, the book of Zephaniah. Zephaniah. Just passed it, just bear with me. Zephaniah chapter 2. And I'm going to read verse 1 through 3. And it reads, gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth. Before the day pass as a chaff. Before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you. Before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. So the Lord is commanding us to gather together all the tribes that are not desired in this society. He's telling us we need to come back together, like he said in Ezekiel, the southern and the northern kingdom, and come back together on this one stick. He wants us all back together as one family. That's what he's talking about, coming back together on that one stick. And so everybody can see us all back together again. Verse 3 reads, seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be you shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. So the Lord is saying you may be hid in the day of his anger, on that fierce day when he cracks that sky. So we have to be doing the things that he asks, because it's critical. It's going to be a serious thing if you're not in order on that day. He's going to be destroying people if they're not keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments. And from there, I'm going to go to Leviticus, the book of Leviticus. Leviticus 23, right there, 23, verse 1 through 4, and it reads, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. So, and then verse 3, 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest, and a holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. So the Most High is saying we need to come together on the Sabbath and keep this holy convocation throughout our generations. We're supposed to be going out every Sabbath and gathering together. And this is what Zephaniah was saying, gather together, O nation not desired. Verse 4, and these are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. And then he has feast days, like we got the Passover coming up. That's a day that we're supposed to observe, not Easter. We shouldn't be doing Easter like they're out there selling all that, the bunny rabbits, and doing all those plastic eggs and chocolates. You're not supposed to be doing Easter. You're supposed to be doing the Passover. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to keep these feasts like he proclaimed in the Levitical laws. And from there, I'm going to go back to the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms. And I'm going to go to chapter 133. 133, verse 1 and 2. And he says, "Behold, how good and how pleasant is it for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran upon the beard, even Aaron's beard that went down to the skirts of his garments." So the Lord is saying this is a beautiful thing when brothers gather together in unity. He said this is like the precious ointment, precious ointment that ran down Aaron's beard. And verse that's it on that. Salakia. And from there I'm going to go to the book of Hebrews. It's a little hot in here. Go to the book of Hebrews. Let me get there. Hebrews. And I'm going to read from chapter 10, starting at verse 25 through 27. And it reads, "Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching." So he's saying that we need to do this. This is more urgent than you think, because you see the day approaching. You see the signs. You see the news. You see the warning signs. You see them over in Ukraine. You see what Russia's doing in China, North Korea, and Iran. Now he's saying that you start seeing these signs, you should come together because it's urgent. Verse 26, "For if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins." So if you're doing, you know to do, like James said in the book of James, to know to do good and you do it not, to him or her it is sin. So if you're sinning willfully after you have the knowledge of the truth, he says there remaineth no more sacrifice for sin. And this is what he says, 27, "But a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries." So that's talking about the Most High's righteous anger, that fiery indignation. So if you're not doing the laws on that day, you're going to get punished, you're going to be destroyed on that day. That's what he's saying. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Matthew. Book of Matthew, chapter 22. Bear with me a minute. Matthew 22, and I'm going to read from verse 8. Verse 8 through 10. "Then saith he to his servants, The wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy." This is Yahushua speaking. This is all read in the book of Matthew. And he said in verse 9, "Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as you shall find, bid to the marriage." So he's commanding us to go out there on the highways and the byways and to command the people to come back to the laws, the statutes and commandments. Verse 10, "So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests." So he's trying to gather all those lost sheep of the 12 tribes of Israel. He wants us to come back to him, to your first love. And this is what he's saying before that decree goes forth. He wants us to be ready in season and out of season. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Isaiah. And I'm going to read from verse 44, 1 through 4. And that reads, "Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. Verse 2, thus said the Lord that made thee, and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and thou Yasharahla, whom I have chosen. Yasharahla is just another name for Israel. And Jacob, we know that the 12 tribes come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For verse 3, for I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground. I will pour my spirit upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring. So this kind of goes with what that verse there in 3 kind of goes with what David said in Psalms, I believe Psalms 37, down in that chapter, how he said, I have been young, but now I'm old. But I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging for bread. He's going to do this to our children and our grandchildren. We're supposed to teach our children, and then they're supposed to teach their children, and so on and so on. And they're supposed to keep the laws for a perpetual covenant. And verse 4, and they shall spring up as among the grass, as willows by the water courses. And this is when you're going to, and once the seeds are planted, we go out and, like Paul said in Corinthians, one will plant, another water, and God will bring the increase. And then you'll start springing up and bearing for that fruit. You'll start bearing the fruit. This is what he's saying in here. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Luke, chapter 14. Let me grab the book of Luke. Luke chapter 14. And I'm going to read verse 22 to 28. I'm just about there. Luke 14, verse 22 to 28. And it reads, and the servant said, Lord, it is done, as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. See, Christ was saying that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. So this is why he's saying there's still room. We need people to come and do the work. That's what the Yahushua is saying. He wants the people to come and do the work. Verse 23, and the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. He wants a full house. He wants to bring all the lost sheep in. This is what Christ is saying here. Verse 24, for I say unto you, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. Verse 25, and there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciples. Now he's not saying that you should hate your wife. He's not saying that you should hate your children. He's not saying that. He's saying that you shouldn't put nothing above him. That your faith and your walk should be so strong, you shouldn't put nothing above him. You should always stay focused and run this race with endurance, looking unto a Mashiach Yahushua, which is the author and finisher of our faith. And let's see, where did I leave off? Verse 27, and whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So Yahushua carried his cross through Jerusalem, all the way up to the Calvary. He had to carry that cross. So we have a cross that we have to carry. Verse 28, for which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first, and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it. So he's saying you should have thought this through, and you should have really pondered on it, and you should have been mindful of all the things you were going to have to do and things that you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to give up things in the world. You can't hold on to the things. You can't serve God and mammon. So you're going to have to make a choice. Like Yahshua said, we have to choose ye this day as to whom we're going to serve. But as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Most High, Yahweh. And from there, I'm going to go back to the book of Psalms. Book of Psalms. And I'm going to go to chapter 5. Trying to get there. Just bear with me. Psalms is a very big book. I'm just about there. Psalms chapter 5, and I'm going to read verse 4 and 6. And it reads, For thou art not a God that hath pleasure in wickedness, neither shall evil dwell with thee. Verse 5, The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. See, the Most High doesn't love everybody. And if the people are in sin, that's what iniquity is. If they're in sin and doing all these things that he hates them. He says he hateth all the workers of iniquity. And from there, I'm going to go back to the book of Matthew, chapter 9. Back to the book of Matthew, chapter 9. And I'm going to read from verse 36 through 38. And that reads, But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted. So this is because they gave up. They gave up on the run and the race. Just bear with me. Let me read that again. But when he saw the multitudes, verse 36, I'm going to read 36 to 38. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion. Shalakia, the Lord deals with me at times, so just bear with me. Oh Lord, give me the strength to finish this. Let me start over. Thank you, Lord. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted, because they didn't continue in the race, and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Verse 37, Then saith he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. So this is why he was saying there was still room. When he was saying that precept in Luke, he was saying to go out and compel them to come in, because there was still room. Because he wants his lost sheep. Then saith he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. 38, Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into the harvest. And that's my prayer. I pray for the nation, for God to increase the nation, for all the lost sheep that are out there to come on back into the fold. This is what Yahushua was praying for, and this is what he wanted. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of John, just over to the book of John, and I'm going to go to chapter 10, and I'm going to start at verse 8, and I'm going to read through 16. And it reads, All that ever came before me, this is Yahushua speaking here, all that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. And then verse 9, he says, I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. Verse 10, The thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they may have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. So Yahushua he's the source of life. Anybody that's rejecting him, this is actually, you're rejecting life. This is what the people are doing. They're rejecting life by rejecting him. Verse 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. Verse 12. But he that is a hireling and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth. And the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth them. Now he's talking about the adversaries, or the enemy. The hireling fleeth because he is a hireling, and careth not for the sheep. Let me get with this page kind of sticking. Verse 14. Yahushua said, I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. Verse 15. As the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Verse 16. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. See, there was that split of the northern and the southern kingdom, because the northern kingdom got into idolatry. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, they were keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, but the northern kingdom, they had went off. He wants to bring them back into the fold. And from there, I'm going to go to John 15, just a couple chapters over. John 15, verse 1 through 7. And it reads, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. So he wants to prune you. He wants to take, he take away those stony hearts and give you the hearts of flesh. He wants to take away all these old things that you used to do, the men. He wants you to get rid of that old wretched man or the old wretched women. Now you are clean through the words which I have spoken unto you. See, this word is what cleans us up. We have to have the living water, which is the word. We have to have it. And then verse 4, he said, abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine. No more can you except you abide in me. Verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. So we can't do it without the Most High. There's no way to do it. We have to have him in our lives to walk this walk and run this race. Verse 6, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. Shalakia. And is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. This is talking about that fire. When those ICBM missiles come, the people that aren't ready, they're going to get burned up. Verse 7, if you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. So this is the keys to the answered prayer. If you're doing the things that he said, we have to be walking in obedience to get our prayers answered. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Revelations, chapter 7. Revelations chapter 7. And I'm going to read verse 3 through 4. And it reads, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. So Yahushua he doesn't want any to perish, but this place is going to get destroyed. But the 144,000, they have to be sealed. And then once that's set, right now we could be in the sixth seal. Once the seventh seal is open, and then it's going to all hell is going to break loose. Verse 4, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So this is how many have to be sealed before he gets up off of that throne. Because once they're sealed, this place is done. So this is urgent for brothers to gather together and keep these laws. This is an urgent thing. And from there, I'm going to go to Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes. going to Solomon. And I'm going to go to verse 4, or Shalakia, chapter 4, and I'm going to read verse 9 through 12. And this reads, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward. Shalakia, a good reward for their labor. So can 2 walk together, Amos? He said through the prophet Amos, unless they're in agreement. We have to be in agreement. We made this covenant with them through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we have to be in agreement. Verse 11. Shalakia. Verse 10. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. So when you see that word woe in the Bible, that means destruction. So he said, destruction to him, to those that are alone. Verse 11. Again, if 2 lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? See, when the brothers are out there helping each other, that's iron sharpening iron. We keep bringing that heat at them. When the people are coming up and trying to attack us, we're in that spiritual fight, we can keep bringing that heat at them. Keep throwing these precepts at them, and it burns their spirit up. And verse 12. And if 1 prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him. And a threefold cord is not easily broken. So the more brothers out there, the better. The more ox we have out there, the better. This is what the Most High is saying. We got to be out there gathering together. And from there, I'm going to go back to the book of Revelations, chapter 22. And I passed it, Shalakia. Revelations chapter 22, and I'm going to read verse 12. And that reads, and behold, this is Yahushua in red letter. He says, and behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be. So this is him giving us, he's giving us a warning, and that his reward is going to be with him. If we weren't keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, you're not going to get a reward. So we have to look at this as an urgent thing. We have to look into that perfect law of liberty. We have to pray. We have to fast. We have to gather together. Do all the things he said in these scriptures, so that when he comes, we won't have to look upon the Most High in shame. And with that, I'm going to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bashem of Mashiach Yahushai. Shalom.